Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mail Bag, the mailbag installment of our AMC Movie News department here. Kind of a questions-only version of AMC Movie Talk, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I'm so glad you decided to join me on this fine Sunday afternoon, getting ready to start the new week tomorrow. And listen, I want you to know that if you've got a question, the whole basis of this show is the questions you guys send in. So if you've got a question or a comment or a topic you'd like us to bring up on either AMC Movie Talk or AMC Mailbag on the weekends, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Now, every day on AMC Movie Talk, Monday through Friday, we take 2 questions from the mailbag. And every weekend on Saturday and Sunday, we take just anywhere between 6 and 8 mailbag questions. So I got 6. I got 6 mailbag questions pulled out that we're going to address today. But before we get to the mailbag questions, one of the things I'm looking forward to tomorrow, that's on Monday, we are announcing the final results of the March Movie Madness tournament that we've been having. This has been so much fun for me because it's kind of like mixed. I'm a sports nut as well as a movie nut, so this is kind of like the best of both worlds of mixing the world of movies with the world of sports for me. Anyway, as you know, we started off with the 32 best comic book superhero movies of all time, and every week we've been letting you guys vote and whittling it down, and we came down to the 2 finalists, and the 2 finalists, unsurprisingly, were The Dark Knight and The Avengers. So those are the final 2. And I got to tell you what, I'll let you know right now, the voting's closed, so this won't influence anything. I voted for The Avengers. I love The Dark Knight. If you've watched me for any period of time, you know I love The Dark Knight. It's a masterpiece of a film. But to me, the overall movie-going experience of watching The Avengers was just that much better than The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight certainly does a certain number of things better. To me, the things that Avengers did better was a little bit more important. And that's the interesting thing about movies, is that I think we'll all agree there are 2 different columns. And in one column is the things that we all think that The Dark Knight did better. And the other column is all the things we thought The Avengers did better. And it really is up to us individually as to which of those elements were more important and what helped deliver the better experience of being in the movie theater for us. And for a lot of people, I know that's The Dark Knight. And for some people, like myself, it's The Avengers. But here's the interesting thing. I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I have not looked at the results. I do not know what the results are. I have not been tracking it from day one. I'm going to get told the results on Monday. So that being said, when this whole tournament started, I knew ultimately it would come down to The Dark Knight and The Avengers, barring any big surprises. But I always kind of suspected that even though I would be voting for The Avengers, I kind of suspected that The Dark Knight would win. But I'm going to tell you what, a very interesting thing has happened in this tournament, in that the margin of victory that Avengers has been having over its 4 opponents coming down to this final round have been bigger margins of victory than The Dark Knight has had over its opponents. And all that is leading me to think that I think we're in for a very, very minor upset, because even though they're both #1 seeds, I thought Dark Knight was going to win. I think a lot of people would have thought Dark Knight was going to win, and that people like me who are going to be voting for Avengers might be in the minority, but I'm starting to believe that Avengers is going to win this poll. I'm starting to believe that you, the viewers, are going to vote Avengers as the best comic book superhero movie of all time. So that's going to be really interesting to see the results tomorrow. I'm excited about it. Thank you for your participation. You know what? I think this whole bracket tournament thing has been such a success. I think we're going to do maybe 3 a year. And I think the next one we're going to do is for best animated film of all time. And I think we'll pick the top 32, set up the 2 brackets, seed them 1 to 16, and let you guys do the voting. And I'm excited for it. And we'll probably do that, I don't know, maybe after the summer, maybe after August is done. Once Comic-Con is done and all that kind of stuff is behind us, we'll look at that again. But I've had a blast with this thing, and I thank you for your participation in it. Anyway, enough of all that. This show is called Mailbag, so we're going to get to your mailbag questions. As I take a sip of my water, you know, AMC Mailbag, much more laid back and relaxed show than AMC Movie Talk. So I can wear a t-shirt, I can drink my water. So let's get on to question number 1. And the first question today comes to us from Ian Caffarel, who writes, "You guys do an excellent job with the show. Thank you so much, Ian. My question was regarding stop motion animation. Will we ever get to a point where stop motion animation will become popular again? I know there is a bunch of movies coming out. There is a new movie coming out called The Box Trolls, which I'm really excited about, and that pirate movie last year. But are we ever? Were we ever? Maybe you mean will, but will we ever start to see that style of movie making become popular again? First of all, I'm glad you brought up The Box Trolls. I think that looks really cute. I think that looks really interesting. I'm very curious about that. I'm not going to say I'm super excited about it, but it has really piqued my interest. I'm very curious about this movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing it quite a bit. I gotta wonder though if this kind of stop motion animation. You ask if it will ever be really popular again, and I don't know that it's ever been really popular. I think it's always been good, and I've always think there's been a stories for that medium. I mean, obviously there are several. Gromit and Wallace, is that what they're called? I mean, that stop motion. Chicken Run was a very popular one in that style. There have always been certain numbers of movies done in stop motion animation, but I don't know that it's ever been like the popular medium, of the day. I think there's certainly been times when it's been more popular than other times, but I don't know that it's ever been the popular medium. But that being said, if I'm going to be honest with you, I really don't care. You see, to me, the movies are really all about the story, not the medium. Stop motion animation, CG animation, live action, puppets, whatever. Those are just the medium for telling the stories. And some mediums are better suited to tell certain stories than others. But to me, what it comes down to is if you've got a bad story, it doesn't matter if you do it in 2D animation, 3D animation, stop motion animation, live action, or with puppets. It doesn't matter. A bad story is going to be a bad movie. It doesn't matter what medium you do it in. And a particularly good story will be a good movie regardless of what medium you use it in. And then you get some movies like Up. I mean, Up was best suited for CG animation. So while I think any Up movie in almost any medium would have been good, I think pairing it with the right medium can make it special. And obviously Up was a very, very special film. And to me, Box Trolls looks like a type of movie that is perfectly suited for a stop motion animation kind of thing. Because for Wallace and Gromit, if you do that in 3D animation as opposed to stop motion animation, I think that could still be really funny and really good. I'm not completely convinced that stop motion animation was the best medium for it. Might be, it might not be, whatever. But the bottom line is this. I don't really care if stop motion animation becomes really popular, simply because I just want good stories. And if there are stories like the Box Trolls that are served better by being told in stop motion animation, then I'm all for it. But just because that works doesn't mean I think you should take other stories that would be better served in 2D animation, live action, CGI. I don't think you should then take them and just drop them into stop motion because it's the popular thing. You know what I mean? So I know other people feel other ways. I know I've got a couple of friends who are just diehard stop motion animation fans, and for good reason. But for me, it's just all about the story. I don't really pay too much attention to the medium, but that's just me, just my opinion. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Michael Logan Levitt, who writes, that's a cool name, by the way, Michael. I just recently watched The Punisher Laundry Day short film. I love short films and watch them all the time. My question is, do you think there is any way that short films could ever get into theaters, even if it's a small screening for a 30-minute or 25-minute movie in an AMC theater? I honestly would go see it if it looked good. The way I see it, this could make a lot of money. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. First of all, if you have not seen The Punisher Laundry Day, definitely check it out. It's fun. Go onto YouTube because you got your original Punisher there. Well, at least not the original Punisher, but you've got the Punisher there, and I guess it's supposed to be years later, and he's just doing laundry and he walks into the middle of a bad situation, and he becomes the Punisher again, and it's really cool. You should definitely check it out if you have not seen Punisher Laundry Day. That being said, really, no, I don't see that ever becoming a thing. Just generally speaking, people don't pay to go see short films. They just generally don't. And the only way you're going to get a lot of people into a theater to see something is if you have a serious marketing budget behind them to make sure everybody's aware of it, and you get market saturation and people know it's there. And frankly, you can't spend that kind of money on a marketing campaign for a short film. I was in, this is going to be really unpopular to say, but I was in this great film class with Dove S.S. Simmons. And he's a film instructor that guys like Quentin Tarantino has studied under and recommends. So if you live in the Hollywood area, check out, and I know he does some seminars in New York as well, check out Dove S.S. Simmons' 2-day film school. It's really an intensive but incredibly eye-opening thing. I took his course before, and it's really quite interesting. So anyway, that being said, I remember in that film course, that 2-day film seminar, Dove S. Simmons talked very frankly about short film. He said, short film is a great thing to hone your skills as a filmmaker, and they're great things to do that you can show your friends or put online, or maybe just show off that you have some filmmaking skill. But don't make it thinking that a lot of people are going to try to rush out and see it, because they won't. And he was just being very blunt. And I agree with him. I don't think there's a big market for people lining up to go see short films. And quite frankly, for a movie theater, they want to put films on their screens that are going to put the most butts in the seats. And if they have a choice between putting in, Divergent or, 2 20-minute short films, just the odds say that more people are going to go see Divergent, so they're going to put that on the screen. We, the film goers, are the ones who vote with our ticket purchase dollars. And the reality is, historically, it's just a fact that people don't pay to go see short films. Now, I think there's incredible value in short films. I think it's great that the Oscars have a category, an Academy Award category for short film. I think they can tell great stories and they're great mediums, but to be honest, they're not widely popular. And I don't think they have a wide audience. And so because of that, and now remember, I'm just talking, I'm not talking should. I'm not saying people shouldn't want to see short films and people shouldn't be willing to pay money to see good short films. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying what I think you would agree with me, that there's not a big audience out there of people of average film goers who are looking to pay money to go and watch a short film. I just think that's the unfortunate reality. And if you think I'm wrong, by all means, tell me in the comments section you think I'm wrong and point me to some facts and figures. I would love to see them. Trust me. I would love to be wrong about this. But I don't think I am. But let me know either way, and let me know what you guys think as well. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Jack Hay, who writes, thank you for being here. You're welcome. Thank you for being here for our questions. My question is the Cap 3 versus Batman versus Superman weekend. Now, for those of you who don't know what Jack is talking about when we bring this up, just give you a little bit of background. I know a lot of you know this, but some of you might not. So Marvel announced that they were going to release an unnamed movie. They knew which movie it was, but they weren't telling the public yet. Marvel announced that they were going to be releasing another Marvel film on May 6th, 2016. All right. At that time, when Marvel made that announcement, Batman vs. Superman was supposed to come out in the summer of 2015. Now, later, Batman vs. Superman, or Man of Steel 2, whatever you want to call it, announced that they were moving back almost a full year to May 6th, 2016, the date in which Marvel already said they were planning on releasing one of their movies. So after Man of Steel 2 announced it was moving to May 6, 2016, Marvel announced that the film that they were planning on releasing on that date, it was Captain America 3. So right now we've got this high-power game of chicken going on. Both Marvel and DC are saying we're not changing dates. Kevin Feige is insistent that they are not moving Captain America 3. They are keeping that on May 6th because, they called it first. If you want to get juvenile about it, we called it. So there you go. On the same time, Warner Brothers, while it looks like they're wavering a bit, as of right now, I think Warner Brothers will blink and move. But as of right now, Warner Brothers is saying we don't have any plans right now to move off the May 6th. They said, it's still a long ways away. Who knows what'll happen? But as of right now, we don't have any plans to move. So as he's asking this question, that's what he's talking about in the Captain America 3 versus Batman versus Superman. That's the situation he's referring to. All right, so let's get back to the question here. So he's writing, thank you for being here and answering our questions. My question is with Captain America 3 versus Batman versus Superman weekend. I read an article saying both movies could do $100 million on opening weekend separately, but together will only hurt both studios, correct? Yeah, that's correct. But the real question is, Do theaters even have enough screens to handle two major blockbusters at once? Jack, I'm going to tell you right now, that is an awesome question and a great observation. Because right now, all we've been focused on is talking about, well, obviously, if these two gigantic movies, Captain America 3 and Batman vs. Superman, open on the same day, they are both going to hurt. They're both going to suffer. No matter which one wins, they are both going to lose because they're both going to make a lot less money on their opening weekend than they would have if they opened on different weekends from each other. So one of them is going to make more than the other, but who cares? They're both going to lose, and everybody's going to lose. I'm sure they'll both still make money, but not nearly as much money as they would have if they'd opened on different weekends. So that being said, that's been the issue that most of us have been focusing on. But you raise an excellent question. It's like, wait a minute. Do theaters even have enough screens to support these two movies coming out at once? Because I'll tell you what, AMC Movie Talk, our main office is at the AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. It is one of the most popular movie theaters in America. It's just absolutely, I think it's like one of the top 3 or 4 busiest movie theaters in America. And anyway, that's where we have one of our studios, and that's where we have our offices for AMC Movie Talk and AMC Movie News. And I remember when the Avengers came out. And when the Avengers opened, I think they planned on it being on 8 screens in the AMC 16. 8 screens at midnight. Well, as the morning progressed of opening day and screens started to sell out more and more, AMC dedicated another screen. They bumped another movie out and dedicated another screen to Avengers. And then as more sold out, they dedicated another screen. By the time midnight came around, all 16 theaters in the AMC Burbank 16 were playing nothing but the Avengers. And they were all sold out. Now, is Batman vs. Superman or is Captain America 3 individually going to be as big as Avengers was on its opening weekend? No, but they're both going to demand a lot of screens on opening night. They're both going to demand a lot of screens. I'm going to tell you, not every movie theater has 16 screens like AMC Burbank 16 does, or the amount of seats that a theater like the AMC Burbank 16 does. I think you're absolutely right. I think it was, I'm just going to double check. I think it was Jack. Yes, Jack, you are absolutely right. This is going to be an issue. Because you're going to hear some Marvel people complaining, we didn't, theaters gave too many screens to Batman vs. Superman instead of us. And you're going to hear people at DC complaining, too many theaters gave too many screens to Captain America instead of Man of Steel. I mean, literally, no, there's not going to be enough screens to meet demand of 2 major, huge blockbusters opening on the same night. They're just not. And so that is a real problem. But look, I think while it's fun to speculate about how much money will everybody lose and are there going to be enough screens, I still believe completely that one of the two will move. And I'm judging by Warner Brothers and DC's most recent comments, because while Kevin Feige came out and said, we are not moving Captain America 3, Warner Brothers just recently came out last week. You remember us talking about this on AMC Movie Talk last week and said, well, it doesn't make sense for 2 big blockbusters to open on the same day, and a lot can happen between now and May 2016. But as of right now, we don't have any plans to move. To me, that sounded like Warner Brothers was blinking. And I think very wisely. I think one of these two have to move. And I think DC and Warner Brothers needs Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel 2 to be a mega hit more than Marvel needs Captain America 3 to be a mega hit. So while I think if they both open on the same weekend, I think Man of Steel 2 wins. But like I said, they both lose. And Marvel can deal with a loss right now a lot better than Warner Brothers can deal with a loss. They need the cinematic universe to really work and be a huge hit. They need Man of Steel 2 to be a massive hit. And to do that, they can't open on the same day. So I think, there are some very, very smart people at Warner Brothers. You hear me bag and complain about Warner Brothers sometimes not showing faith or confidence in their superhero characters and not having a long-term plan. But all that being said, make no mistake about it. There are some very smart people running Warner Brothers. And these guys are smart enough to know that it is in their best interest to move dates. And I believe that comment we just heard from Warner Brothers last week about, it doesn't really make sense for two mega hits to open on the same day and a lot can happen between now and then. I think that's the first sign that Warner Brothers is going to move. And I think that is the wise move. I think that is the smart move. And I think Warner Brothers is smart enough to do it. I really do. So while we're talking about will there be enough theaters and how much money are both films going to lose, I believe ultimately it's kind of irrelevant because I do believe Warner Brothers will be wise and move dates, and we won't really have this issue. And we'll probably hear them moving dates probably in 6 months from now or something like that. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Ryan Santana, who writes, I know how John says that in order for multiple sequels to be made, the box office performance should be increasing each time, giving a positive slope. Following that idea, it would seem then that Age of Ultron needs to be third or higher in all-time domestic box office, and Avatar 2 needs to be the greatest of all time. By greatest, you mean the biggest box office success of all time. Thanks a lot for the question. What Ryan here is asking is, I'll often see people ask me, hey, do you think such and such 3 could be made? And I'll say, well, here's the problem. Let's just call it Movie W, okay? So Movie W1, Movie W1 made this much money, okay? And so they did a sequel. But the sequel was not received well by critics, and it actually made this much money. It made a lot less money. So what you have is what I call a trajectory. You have a negative trajectory going on. So will the studio then think it's wise to make a third one when in all likelihood it's going to continue that trajectory and lose even more money? And I say because of that, a lot of studios will not make a third movie of that, right? But then I've also said, take movie Y, and movie Y1 makes this much money, and movie Y2 makes this much money. That's the kind of trajectory studios want to see. So they have more incentive to make a third film, right? Now, what is being asked here is, well, since studios want a positive trajectory, not a negative trajectory, does that mean that Avengers 2 needs to make $2.5 billion worldwide, or else it'll be on a negative trajectory? It's a fair question, but I'm going to say no, and here's why. With most films, if you go on a negative trajectory and you get down from here down to here, that means you're getting into the area, for most films, it means you're getting into the area where now your studio is losing money making it. Like you made this film and you lost money on it. You didn't make money, you lost money. The thing about Avengers 2 is, and I think it will make more money than the previous one, but even if it doesn't, Avengers 2 had such a monumentally huge profit margin. It made so much money that even if it took a 15% dip in box office, and it won't, but let's say it did, even if it had a negative trajectory, it's still going to make boatloads of money. If it goes from making this much down to this much is still a ton of profit and still a ton of money. And even though that had a negative trajectory, the studio still has loads of incentive to do a third, because even though it made less money than the first one, it still made a ridiculous buttload of money. And that is what's important. Now, for most films, that's not the case. Like I said, for most films, if you go from here to here, that means you're getting close to losing money. If not, you're in the hole. You're already in the hole. But when you get mega blockbusters like Avengers 2, like Star Wars, like Avatar 2, I believe Avatar 2 will make less money than the first Avatar. But that won't mean anything, because even though I believe it'll make a little bit less money than the first Avatar, it is still going to make huge money, and therefore they are totally safe to plan Avatar 3 and Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 if they so choose. That's totally safe. Yeah, when you're talking about these big, massive blockbusters that have huge profit margins, I believe that insulates those few films from the law of trajectory. So no, I don't think Age of Ultron has to be the third biggest box office film of all time. I don't think Avatar 2 has to be the biggest box office moneymaker of all time, because even if they go down, they're still making huge profits, and ultimately that's what matters. Great question, though. Excellent question. All right, let's move on to question number 5 today, the second last question of the day. And this one comes to us from Sahil Charania. I'm sorry, Sahil. I'm butchering your name. Please forgive me. I'm terrible with names. Anyway, My question is, which movies that come out this summer have the potential for joining the $1 billion club? And do you think any movie will bomb at the box office this summer like The Lone Ranger did last year? Thanks, and keep up the awesome work. Good question. I actually only think there are 2 movies this summer that really have the true potential to hit the $1 billion club. I think one is Spider-Man 2. Remember, the last Spider-Man film made over $700 million. Generally, it was very well received by audiences and critics. And the marketing for Spider-Man 2 has been spectacular. There's been too much of it, to be frank, but it has been spectacular marketing. And therefore, I think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has a legitimate shot at, I'm not guaranteeing it'll hit $1 billion, but I think it's got a legitimate shot at hitting the $1 billion club worldwide. The other film that I think has a legitimate shot is Transformers 4. Pardon me, I think Transformers 4, I mean, look, all the Transformers movies, even the terrible, terrible ones, they make huge money. Huge money. And but I don't think it's a lock. I don't think Transformers 4 making the $1 billion mark is an absolute lock, but out of any of the films coming out, I don't really think X-Men Age of Apocalypse, I think that'll make not Age of Apocalypse, X-Men Days of Future Past, I think that'll make a lot of money, but I don't think it has a chance of hitting the $1 billion club. I hope it does. And there are a few others like that as well. As far as what might really disappoint and bomb, let me look down the list here. I don't think Godzilla is going to be a bomb. I think that's going to do okay. I think X-Men Days of Future Past is going to do okay. I think Maleficent is going to do okay. As we get into June, I think Edge of Tomorrow may bomb. I think the new Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow, that one has a chance of bomb. I haven't liked the marketing so far. I think it leaves a lot of audiences confused as to what they're looking at. I think they need a better marketing campaign, and they're running out of time. I think that one could be a big money loser, to be honest. I hope I'm wrong. But because I'm kind of interested in the film, but I don't think the marketing's been very good, and I think most people don't think it's been very good. So that one has the potential to bomb. 22 Jump Street will not bomb. How to Train Your Dragon 2 will not bomb. I already said I think Transformers Age of Extinction is probably one of the ones that has the potential of hitting the $1 billion club. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes won't bomb. Jupiter Ascending. Yeah, the new Channing Tatum. That one has a chance, done by the Wachowski siblings. That one has a chance of bombing. I don't know anybody that's liked the trailer so far. Maybe you did. Maybe a lot of people did, and I'm just oblivious to it. But I think that one has a big chance of bombing. I don't think Hercules will bomb. The Rock is just too big of a star. Getting to audiences, Guardians of the Galaxy won't bomb. It definitely won't be in the $1 billion club, but it won't bomb either. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles won't bomb. It might be terrible. It might be great, but I don't think it'll bomb. Expendables 3 isn't going to bomb. That really does it for the summer films. So I think the films that I have the most chance of hitting the $1 billion club are Spider-Man 2 and the Transformers 4. And I think the ones that have the biggest potential to bomb is probably Edge of Tomorrow. But I don't know that it will bomb, and I really hope it won't. I hope it'll be a big hit. So that's just my opinion. So thanks for the question. All right, last question of the day. And the last question today comes to us from Nick Mullet. I love that name. Who writes, "Greetings, AMC Movie Talk. I just found your podcast on iTunes and subscribed to your YouTube channel." Thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate that. "I am a huge fan of The Goonies, and I absolutely agree that there should not be a remake or sequel. The 80s atmosphere of the movie is what helped make that movie the classic that it is. Any divergent from that era or remake of that era would only result in a disaster. So I offer up another 80s classic that I think would benefit from a remake. Howard the Duck. I think the background of this 80s glam rock science fiction fantasy could be easily made into a remake. Thank you for your outstanding show. Take care." It's funny. I was having a discussion about Howard the Duck with a friend of mine the other day who, quite frankly, is about 10 times smarter than me. And we were having this debate, and he was going down all the reasons why he thought a Howard the Duck remake could work. And why it would work in today's movie-going context. And maybe he's right. I disagreed with him, though. I honestly think you say Howard the Duck, I think it's funny to think about it, but I don't think you can make a movie about it, put it in theaters, and expect a lot of people to run out to see it. I just don't see a way that could work. And maybe I'm wrong. That's cool. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll come out and be totally awesome, and I would love it, and everybody would flock out to see it. But since you're putting me on the spot and you asked me, do I think that one could work? No. Frankly, I think that a Goonies remake, and I'm not for a Goonies remake. Because you remember they're talking about remaking the Goonies or doing a Goonies 2, right? I'm all for Goonies 2 if you get all the adult Goonies back and now they have a new adventure. But what they're talking about, what the rumor is at any rate, is that Goonies 2 is actually going to be about the original Goonies kids. And the original Goonies kids having an adventure, with all the original Goonies having like a small cameo appearance at the beginning and end of the movie. And to me, that's not Goonies. That just because you say these characters are those characters' offspring, they're still different characters. These aren't the Goonies. If you're going to make Goonies 2, make Goonies 2. Come up with something why the original Goonies have to get back together to save, I don't know, Josh Brolin's house. Right? I don't know. Just come up with something. So the movie is about the Goonies, not about the Goonies kids, and about a totally different set of characters. That doesn't interest me. And I don't know that it'll interest a lot of people. Maybe it will. I don't know. But just my gut feeling is that it wouldn't interest a lot of people. Anyway, but even that being said, I still think that the Goonies 2 has a better chance of success than a 2014 or a 2015 revisiting of Howard the Duck. I just don't see it working. I really, really don't. And I don't think there's any way you could muster up the interest in it. That being said, I might have said the same thing about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 years ago. I might have said, look, that's fine that it's a Marvel property, but you can't make a movie about a walking tree and a talking raccoon with a gun and expect people to go out to see it. Well, here it comes. And we're going to find out if people are going to go out to see it. I'm excited for the movie. So, you know, maybe I'm dead wrong about this Howard the Duck thing. Because clearly I would have been dead wrong about the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we'll see how that kind of turns out. Anyway, guys, we've gone over a half hour. So that's my time for today. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Sunday. Don't forget, lots of great films playing in AMC theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Listen, if you want an audio-only version of this podcast, we now put AMC Mail Bag in our iTunes podcast feed. So look in the description of this video and you'll find links to our Stitcher and our iTunes so you can listen to our audio-only podcast. Click that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel as well. Share this video on your Facebook page and your Twitter, whatever. Become an AMC Movie Talk evangelist. So thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name is John Campia, once again for AMC Movie News. And until next time, bye-bye.